Good morning, everybody. We have a physical quorum now, so we're going to commence our meeting. I'm going to call this meeting to order and ask for a roll call, please.
At this time, I am only asking those board members attending in person to respond by saying "here" when I call your name. As a reminder, you can unmute your microphones by pushing the bottom of the base prior to responding. Alternates, please also state your name if you are attending on behalf of a TPA board representative. Steve Wilson.
Here.
Yvette Drucker. Andy Thompson.
Andrea Levine O'Rourke attending for Andy Thompson.
Thank you. Angela Cruz. Shelley Petrolia. Joel Flores. Jim Koretsky. Ronaldo Diaz.
Here.
Joni Brinkman.
Here.
Catherine Waldron.
Here.
Melissa McKinley. Maria Marino. Maria Sachs. Greg Weiss.
Dave Kerner on behalf of Greg Weiss.
Thank you. Shirley Lanier. Fred Pinto. Michael Napoleon.
Here.
Christy Fox. Here. Joseph Peduzzi.
Here.
Chelsea Reed.
Here.
Robert Weinroth.
I am here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, very good. Mayor Wilson, would you please give us an invocation and pledge of allegiance?
Let us pray. Oh, Heavenly Father, we come to you once again with bowed heads and humble hearts. Thank you, as always, for your grace and your mercy. Realizing, Father, that over and over again, that through your grace and your mercy, you've been better to us than we've been to ourselves. And with that, we say thank you. Thank you, Father, for the gift of your comfort with the believers that you brought into our lives. Father, while we struggle through a world full of challenges, we need your presence. We need your uplifting love to take us out of the shadows of hatred and distrust with each other, Father. Help us, Father, to find ways to help each other. Help us to find ways for those around us to become more peaceful and loving towards each other. Yes, Father, we stand on the word of faith, but sometimes it's a struggle to believe what we cannot see. Nevertheless, you promise your faithful love and that you'll never leave us or forsake us. Help us to rest on that promise, Father. And finally, Father, we ask a special blessing for the chairperson of this meeting. You know his heart, Father, and all of us whom you have allowed to be assembled here today, realizing, as always, that we're no strangers to each other, just perhaps friends we have not yet met. We give you all the praise and the glory. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Mayor Wilson, and thank you for that special acknowledgement. This is going to be an interesting meeting, I'm sure. All right, we have a physical quorum, and now we're going to determine if there are anybody else who would like to participate who is virtually present. I'm going to note for the record that the county commission is sort of sparse here today because we have a meeting out in Colorado. That's why Commissioner Kerner is here to substitute for Vice Mayor Weiss. The rest of my colleagues are out in Colorado. I'm going to follow them out later tonight. Who do we have on the phone who would like to join us, Amanda?
Yes, we have a few members who are asking to participate remotely. I have Melissa McKinley for the reason that you just noted. She's attending a meeting out of state. Angela Cruz, Joel Flores are feeling unwell. And Fred Pinto is requesting to join due to a recent COVID exposure.
Okay, so we have three who are asking for.
A total of four.
We have four, I'm sorry, Commissioner McKinley, Cruz, Flores, Pinto. Right. Okay. So we have four.
Yes. And then additionally, I do want to note that there has been an additional modification to the agenda. Item 3B1 has been modified to include Palm Tree updates for July, in addition to the already included June updates.
All right, can I have if there are no objections, we are going to allow the 4 individuals who are participating virtually to attend. Let the record show that the Mayor Petrolia has just joined us, so we now have 12 present. Seeing no objection to the 4 members participating virtually and having a motion to approve the agenda as amended. Looking for that motion.
So moved.
I have a motion by the Vice Chair. I
Second.
have a second by, the Mayor from Del Rey. Thank you very much, Mayor. All in favor, all opposed. Show that the agenda has been approved as amended and the 4 individuals on the line, McKinley, Cruz, Flores, and Pinto, are now participating as full members of this body. All right. General remarks. Do we have any, anybody who wants to speak should have filled out a card. Do we have any cards, Amanda?
There are no general public comments at this time.
All right, very good. I'm going to make some very brief remarks and then we're going to get on to the heart of our agenda. This is a very important meeting today, as you know. We're going to hopefully make a decision as far as a permanent executive director for this body. I'll tell you that 5 members of this body that you assign the task of being the executive committee have worked diligently to take us to this day. You may have read in the paper, I used the word as tortured. This has been a tortured process, but I think that hopefully today we'll come to a resolution and have set the foundation for this organization to move forward and again do its mission, which is address the transportation issues of this county. That being said, is there anybody of the members here who would like to make any comments? Seeing nobody put their flag up, is there anybody virtually who would like to make a comment?
Not at this time.
All right, very good. Valerie, would you give us a brief executive director's report, or we'll say interim executive director's report?
Sure. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. I would like to start off with saying happy new fiscal year. We are now in fiscal year 23 as of July 1st. And in front of you on the dais and also on the counter, we have our fiscal year 22 annual report from this past year, highlighting activities that have occurred over this past year. And just want to give a special shout out to our PR staff, Melissa Murray and Cassidy Sparks, who created this in-house and did a fantastic job. So it's also available online, but just wanted to share that with you. Also, a staff update, we want to welcome Brian Ruscher, who's our new lead planner, pedestrian bicycle coordinator on our multimodal team, and also is serving as our liaison for our Vision Zero Advisory Committee. Brian came to us from Del Rey. So sorry for stealing him, but he'll be serving all of us in this county now, and we're really excited to have him. Brian, if you want to wave and say hello. Also, we want to bid farewell to Margie Pierce, our executive administrator, who's been with us for about 6 years and has grown with the agency. And we are we're sad to see her go, and excited for her new opportunity she's accepted, but very grateful for all the contributions and everything she's done for this agency. So thank you, Margie. Tomorrow's her last day. Also want to highlight Village of Wellington. Very, very excited. They adopted a complete streets policy and a Vision Zero resolution earlier this month to really ensure safe access for all users of the transportation system. And we're really excited to be working with them on advancing those safety efforts. So thank you to Councilman Napoleon for his leadership in that. And for those interested, there is a FDOT local road safety program workshop coming up on July 26th. We have the link here to participate in that. It's a workshop to learn how to better municipalities work with the MPO and the Department of Transportation to advance safety projects. And speaking of that, also the National Dangerous by Design report was recently published for 2022. Nationally, numbers keep getting worse. Florida has gotten worse, but surprisingly we've always been number one. We moved to number 2 as the most dangerous state. So we didn't get better, but someone else got worse than us. So just there is a webinar coming up to review the results nationally about this coming up on July 28th. So if you're interested, please check that out. Myself and several of our board members, including our chair, Commissioner Marino, Councilwoman Drucker, attended the transportation summer camp earlier this month as well. We met with Secretary O'Reilly to discuss local transportation projects and initiatives, and also learned about latest transportation trends there. And that was a really great event. And there's also a planning officials training workshop coming up. Our local chapter for Treasure Coast is hosting that for any folks that are interested in planning and government. Please, there's the link for that. And then, yeah, just want to highlight that there are transportation conferences coming up this fall and other training opportunities. So please let us know if you're interested in attending any of those. We were going to do a group photo for our board, but since we're a little slim today, I think we're going to leave that for a future meeting. But that concludes my report.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Are there any questions or comments with respect to the executive director's report? Seeing you got one, Vice Chair.
Again, I love to call out the staff for doing a great job. So thank you guys so much for the fabulous annual report done in-house. I know this helps our budget when you guys do it in-house, and it looks extraordinarily professional. And so I hope everyone takes the time to read it and go online as well. So thank you guys so much.
Very good. Thank you. Anybody virtually who would like to make a comment?
There are no comments online, but I would like to note for the record that Yvette Drucker has joined.
Okay, so Ms. Drucker has deigned to join us on her birthday. Okay, we're going to move forward now with the consent agenda. Is there anybody who would like to remove anything from the consent agenda? Seeing nobody in front of me. Anybody on the virtual? No, Amanda? Okay. I'm going to look for a motion to approve the consent agenda. I have a motion by Councilman Napoleon. I have a second by the Vice Chair. All in favor? All opposed? I'm sorry. Did you? No comment? Okay. All in favor, all opposed? Show that's unanimously approved by the board. All right, we get down to the meat and potatoes of today's meeting. As I said in my opening remarks, this has probably been a tortured process, but I think we have arrived at a point in time now where this body can make a decision with respect to the permanent executive director of this body. Mayor Flores, are you online?
I am. I'm here.
Good. Mayor Flores had assisted in this process for us. The committee assigned Mayor Flores to work with Mr. Slavin and to whittle down all of the applications. And when I say all, it wasn't wasn't a tremendous number, and we were a little frustrated by ultimately the number of applications we received. I think that it turned out that we've had like 7 or 8 that actually had applied. We whittled that down to 3, with Mayor Flores being on that, doing that process. The short list included the current interim executive director and 2 other candidates from one from Wichita, Kansas, and another north of Florida. Mr. Flores, or Mayor Flores, would you just give us a little bit of a summary of the process you went through and basically what you were able to conclude from the candidates that you were able to interview?
Absolutely. First of all, I apologize that I'm not able to be with you guys today. I woke up with a little bit of a cold and I didn't want to go into the meeting feeling like this. We had 11 applicants that came who applied for the position. We screened them down to, or Mr. Slavin screened them down to 7 individuals who met the criteria and were qualified for the position. Some of them had previous executive director position in transportation organizations. We met with 7. After meeting with the 7, one individual notified us within 24 hours that he wanted to withdraw his application and not be considered for the position. So we were down to 6. From those 6, we invited 3 participants to come and meet with the executive committee, and basically that was the process. The 3 individuals that we met, 2 of them had previous executive director positions with transportation organizations. One is currently an executive director for a TPA out in the Midwest, and one had been a previous executive director of an MPO. I believe it was out west, Tampa area, Hillsborough, maybe. I can't really remember right now. But basically, those were the 3 individuals that surfaced to the top. And if you participated in the interview last week, you were able to listen to their interviews. We gave each of them about, I believe it was 30 minutes to talk to us about their experience. And yeah, so that's where we're here today. And I believe we have a recommendation for, we're recommending to move forward with the current intern executive director. If you saw her interview, she raced to the top. I thought she was very professional, well prepared. She's been with us, and if you compare it to the other candidates seemed unprepared. It was night and day, if you ask me. And I wish that, as she had mentioned, that we had I guess a better pool. But at the end of the day, we've gone through this process now. We're in the almost 8th month. And I think the board should make a decision to be able to move forward.
Thank you, Mayor. Appreciate that critique. For full disclosure, let me just let you all know that there was some dissent on the committee with respect to the recommendation we're going to make to you today. It was a 4-to-1 vote. Commissioner Marino had some reservations. She's not here to speak for herself, so I'll just give you a little bit of her critique. She had some concerns about the staffing issues we've had in the agency over the last 6 months. And I think it's everybody understands that it's been a little disruptive not having a full-time, or not having a executive director, having an interim director. We had some conversations about those issues, and we all agreed that if we make the appointment today of the interim director to become executive director, one of the things we're going to work on is team building. Again, I think, as Mayor Flores said, we were struck by how different the 3 candidates were. The incumbent certainly has the advantage of having been here for 6 months, obviously knowing Palm Beach County, but unfortunately the other 2 candidates from our perspective had not taken the opportunity to learn a little bit more about the county and about our issues. And in fact, Mayor Flores was quite candid in his remarks that he was surprised that after he had a conversation with these individuals during the preliminary phase of their interviews, that they had not taken the opportunity to get more familiar with the operations here in Palm Beach County and to be in a better position to answer the questions of the 5 members of the executive committee when we were making our interviews. So I will tell you that, again, we ultimately voted by a vote of 4-to-1 to offer a contract to the current interim executive director, and that is what we're going to be recommending to you today. Also in your package today is a draft employment agreement that has been negotiated between the agency and the interim executive director. Our attorney, Mr. Goldman, has been working on this exercise, and in tandem with the vice chair, Reed, this document you have in front of us, including the terms of her salary and the terms of the other compensation and benefits, is all been negotiated out. So at this point, I'm going to open it up for conversation and or a motion to move forward, which is item 2A, which would be a motion to approve the TPA executive director's employment agreement. I have Commissioner Kerner is looking to be recognized.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you to Mayor Flores and Executive Committee. Certainly, the Executive Committee and these comments here today make a strong case for Valerie to be appointed to the full-time position of Executive Director. But the strongest case, in my opinion, is her service to this agency during both the interim period. And I think it's also great that she has served in this institution before. In Palm Beach County, Board of County Commissioners, we are very supportive of promoting from within, except in the case of Clinton Forbes. So I think it's great to have a homegrown professional in our agency. I did have one question, and with that, Mayor, I'll make the motion on 2A. But I just had one question regarding the employment agreement. Where does the salary line up with the other, I guess, metro urban areas?
The salary, Commissioner Kerner, is actually slightly less than the previous executive director was receiving when he resigned. Do you have the specific numbers on that? Yeah. I don't need to keep talking. We can have this gap. All right. The desired sire. Oh, you do it. That was your assignment, Vice Chair.
During this period, I suddenly needed reading glasses with all of the documents we've been going through. Let's see, so it is within line. It was within what Ms. Nielsen was asking for. However, if you look at Hillsborough, the MPO director's salary was $141,000. And then you look at Broward, it's 219, Miami-Dade, 268. And so we're coming in at 175,875. So it was what she requested. It included COLA, a raise and or bonus, as well as additional benefits. The contract itself is almost identical to the previous executive director's contract as well. Just one typo that we're going to fix later. So nothing of note.
So it's about the same except for the salary.
Correct. The
What-
salary is less than the previous executive director's salary. The previous executive director's salary added up to 215,725. So we're off by about, $40,000
All right, well,
less.
I don't want to get ahead of ourselves. But I think that that's an issue that if we move forward, it should probably be addressed by the board as a whole. How did the executive committee arrive at the lower salary figure?
It was what was requested by the applicant.
All right, and then as a tangent to that, I can't remember what section it was, but there's an opportunity for the TPA full board to make merit increases through a yearly evaluation. That's how it's been done in the past, I
Yes.
assume.
Yes.
And is it just basically an opportunity for the board to have a discussion with the executive director on a given date every year?
Yeah, I think that the executive committee will probably, in light of, again, the concerns about the staffing, and again, we're being very open about this. There's been a lot of changes, as has been announced. Someone will be departing tomorrow. While this is certainly a period of time when a lot of companies are having difficulty retaining people because of the salary situations, and everybody has left for better positions, not that they are running out of here and saying the place is falling apart, but we are looking towards addressing that with team building and making sure that we can, again, build a team that'll be able to fulfill the mission of this organization. One thing that wasn't mentioned by the vice chair, we're going to give the executive director continuity of benefits so that
Right.
she will be able to still have she had her tenure before she departed to go to Alaska and come back. We're going to give her the continuity of her benefits. So she will have how long were you with the agency before?
You were over 6 years previously.
I started in January 2015.
Yeah, so we will, for her benefits, as far as paid time off and all that, be calculated based upon the period of time that she's been with the agency.
Thank you, Mayor and Vice Chair. Just as a closing statement, with regard to the staffing issues, I hadn't followed the process very closely, to be candid with you. I let the executive committee do their job. But as a general principle, when there's a change in leadership and transition leadership in an agency, it can be a difficult time. And by ensuring that we appoint Valerie as the full-time executive director, she'll now have the opportunity to build a team that fits with her leadership model.
We agree with you that stability should be part of this process now of having a full-time interim or full-time executive director. Your motion is before us right now, Commissioner Kerner, that item 2A would be a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
I'd like to second, and then also to address what you were saying regarding attrition. If you look at Delray, I think they're running at about 30%. I know within the county, there is some issue with employment, and some of the openings that are currently available within the TPA, we've froze as well. So we have not hired a deputy, which was Ms. Nielsen's previous opening. So when you see that opening on the website, we actually froze the hiring of that so that the new executive director could appoint that person. And any attrition that you saw within the TPA were folks that left this, a government job to go work in the private sector where they're able to have a little more flexibility for work from home, things like that, you know, all of us in our jobs, we don't get to do that necessarily as well. So I feel, I understand why it seems like we've lost a few folks, but I don't think it's anything different than we're seeing. And the people that did leave, I do believe it was just the happenstance of our economy right now. So, yeah.
Okay, Mayor Petrolia?
Thank you. I just wanted to ask about the contract, or the employment agreement. I'm looking at a 183, 750 for a base salary, and what was online, that was it. So I thought it was 175. Is that what? I just heard two different numbers.
The 175 is my current salary as the interim executive director. The number, the 183 is with the 5% COLA that all TPA staff received for fiscal year 23.
Okay, so
So
that
it's
would
this
be
current staff
effective.
plus 5% COLA.
So the salary that you're coming in at as the interim, I mean, the executive director is 183, 750.
Yes.
And then the second question that I had, just for purposes that I wasn't aware of, which were mentioned here, did anybody have the opportunity of speaking to any of the staff as to what?
The reason for departure?
Well, yeah, exactly. And I know that there was one member on the board that chose not to, there was a dissenting vote based on that. So I don't know what that carried. I was just curious. As to
There have
whether-
been exit interviews. Valerie, can you give us a critique or summary of what those exit interviews have disclosed?
Sure. So I think there's a variety of reasons. We've mentioned that there is attrition when there's a change of leadership. We have positions that are, my previous position is vacant, so we're short staffed, so it's more strain on staff. We are in the great resignation. 48 million people have resigned from their jobs in the last year. In terms of the staff that have left in the last 7 months, Mayor Reed mentioned everyone left to the private sector. We had folks that got recruited. To my knowledge, we had four staff leave. 3 of them were recruited from the private sector. One of them, to my knowledge, was looking before I came back. And then now our current staff member who's leaving is leaving to the private sector as well. But in the exit interviews, you know, it's kind of all of those reasons. One of the reasons that someone gave also was, I don't know, I've been here now for a year, and the majority of this time has been this interim flux, and we don't know how long this is going to last, what's going to take place. And so there's just a lot of things up in the air. But that's kind of, I think all of those factors together have played a role.
I appreciate that. And I know that just in the city of Delray, we're having an exodus towards the private sector as well, that we're trying to deal with it. And so that's understandable. Thank you for those.
Thank you, Mayor.
answers.
And again, I'll just make a comment here. And obviously with the change of leadership, I would expect that people would feel loyal to the person who departed, and when that person leaves, would feel it was time to move on themselves. So, I think there are a lot of factors here, and I think we took that into account as we made the decision to recommend for this body to approve the executive director with the incumbent interim executive director. Commissioner Fox, you're recognized.
Thank you. I want to thank the executive committee so much for all the work on our behalf to get to this point.
You just move it a little closer to you. Yeah.
In West Palm, we talk a lot about that we have not seen this kind of explosive growth in our county since the time of Henry Flagler. And I think we could have interviewed probably 100 people for this position, and we would not have found anybody that has the passion for our community and the knowledge of being a resident here and understanding the dynamics with all the things going on with housing and transportation. So I'm very confident in this selection. I think oftentimes when a new administration comes in, they might have a different vision or a different personality than the former administration. And I think it's only natural that the staffing, may need to reflect the new administration going forward. And so I think it's a fantastic idea that you have the team builder coming up. And I have a lot of confidence in Valerie's ability to lead this organization. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. And I'll make a final remark before I call the vote. I think that we were lucky and we were hampered by the fact that we had an interim executive director. It probably had some people decide not to apply for the position because they rightly said she's there and certainly has a leg up. She's been there for 6 months, but that's a good thing too. We've had the benefit of seeing her in action. She's done more than just keep the lights on. She has had the opportunity to demonstrate her ability to move this agency forward. And I think that for most of us, we feel that this agency is proceeding in the right direction. So with that being said, I'm now going to call the vote. I'm going to ask that we do the people in present first, and then we'll do the virtual people, and then let's see how we end up.
All righty. Steve Wilson,
Yes.
Yvette Drucker,
Yes.
Andrea O'Rourke,
Yes.
Shelley Petrolia,
Yes.
Ronaldo Diaz,
Yes.
and I will note that Jim Kretzky is absent. Joni Brinkman,
Yes.
Catherine Waldron.
Yes.
I will note that Maria Marino and Maria Sachs are absent. Dave Kerner,
Yes.
Shirley Lanier is also absent. Michael Napoleon,
Yes.
Christy Fox,
Yes.
Joseph Peduzzi,
Yes.
Chelsea Reed,
Yes.
Robert Weinroth.
Yes.
And I will call on the members who have joined us virtually. Angela Cruz.
Yes.
I heard yes, hopefully.
Yes, that
Joel
is
Fl- Go ahead.
my
Vice
answer.
Mayor, was that a yes?
Yes.
Thank you.
Joel Flores,
Yes.
Melissa McKinley,
Yes.
Brad Pinto,
Yes.
I show that as a unanimous vote for approval of item 2A. Congratulations. All right, it was a nail biter, but we got through it.
Thank you, everyone, so much. I really appreciate, I'm honored at the opportunity. I'm looking forward to continue to work with all of you, not only everybody on our board, but all of our municipalities and partners in our county, in our region, to continue to advance our vision, to continue to make Palm Beach County the best place to live, work, and play, to improve our quality of life, transportation, housing, all these things. We're in a critical point right now in our county, and it's such a wonderful opportunity to just bring everybody together to the table and work collaboratively to advance and in a positive way. So I'm really appreciative of all of you, and special thanks to the staff here at the TPA I know it hasn't been easy being short-staffed and everything up in the air. So I really appreciate everyone's support, and also to the executive committee who has been through this process and volunteered their time over the last 7 months to go through this process. So I just want to say thank you, and I'm so excited to work with all of you.
Very good. Thank you. And again, congratulations. Okay, let's move on to some more business. We have Jason Price, who's going to make a presentation on the resolution approving the FY 24-28 list of priority projects.
Morning, everyone. So today I'm going to present to you the list of priority projects for the upcoming fiscal years of 2024 to 2028. Now, as a reminder to the group, this is an action item and will require a vote at the end of the presentation and discussion. So the list of priority projects represents the TPA's priorities for 3 programs that we're going to cover today in this presentation. And as a reminder, this is a subset of all the projects that are included in the Transportation Improvement Program. So what you're going to see today is not a full list of everything that you see in the Transportation Improvement Program, just the TPA priorities. And this particular document, as the list of priority projects fits into our mission by way of being the prioritization mechanism that we provide to FDOT to program those projects. And that's why it's included in our mission to collaboratively plan, prioritize, and fund the transportation system. We're beginning this process new with the development of the Transportation Improvement Program, and that starts with identifying projects, working with our stakeholders, looking at our long-range transportation plan, and looking at feasible projects to include in the list of priority projects. And that list of priority projects includes the 3 main sections, which are state road modifications and our 2 annually competitive grant programs, local initiatives, and transportation alternatives. When this is adopted, we'll provide this to FDOT for their consideration where it's cost feasible and funding is available to program these priorities into their draft tentative work program, which then we utilize to build our transportation improvement program for the following years. To assign some dates to that process that I just described, today we'll be approving the list of priority projects. And then in the months to come, by the end of the year, that will be included in the FDOT draft tentative work program. And then we'll begin to build the draft tip that you'll see in May and June of next year. So to identify the 3 primary programs that we'll be discussing today, the first is state road modifications. The second are the 2 that I mentioned, local initiatives and transportation alternatives. Each one of them have a varying funding amount assigned to each one of them, and they are also funded through different funding sources that you see on the far right side in terms of the funding categories. And you can find those in the document as well as the Transportation Improvement Program. You'll see those specific funding codes for these types of projects within those categories. And so with that, we're going to go into greater detail in each one of these. And I'd like to invite Andrew Euler up. He's going to go over the state road modifications, and I'll return to follow up with the other 2 programs.
Thank you, Jason. Good morning, everyone. So I'll be going through the first program, state road modifications. And the purpose of these is to construct and enhance state roadways to advance the TPA's vision. As Jason mentioned, for this funding, this is all state funding. And so it's required to be spent on state roadways. Traditionally, we've had major projects that are mostly widenings in the past. So for example, Southern Boulevard widening, we still have a few of those coming up with State Road 7 extension, and then the Atlantic Avenue widening. But other types of projects that are also being funded to push our vision are safety, complete streets, transit, and technology improvements. There's roughly around $20.4 million a year that goes towards this program. That really fluctuates year to year, but on average, we're seeing about $20 million. The same funding pot's really used for a lot of other state priorities and operations and maintenance. So that's why that funding amount sort of fluctuates year to year. And really, this is on a 5-year timeline where the new phases that we're going to have programmed typically come into the new 5th year. So in this instance, a lot of the funding that's going to be available is in fiscal year 2028. I'm just going to go through the priorities we have, these requests to FDOT through this list of priority projects. I'm not going to focus on any of the ones that are already shown in the program, the transportation improvement program. These are all ones that are not yet funded. Okay. The first one I wanted to give an update on and for the quest is Atlantic Avenue widening from Lyons Road to Jog Road. So the western portion is already fully funded in the transportation improvement program, and that should be starting soon. Our request here is to accelerate right-of-way funding if possible and to fully fund the construction amount. So we don't have the full construction amount yet funded. So looking for fiscal year 2028 on that. For that, and then we're also working through the PD&E now with Fdot and Lakewood Drainage District to come to a conclusion on that, so they can start design to move forward with that project. Next is the US 1 Enhanced Transit and Multimodal Corridor Facilities. So back in 2018, we completed a multimodal corridor study through the entire length of US 1 in Palm Beach County. With that came a series of products in all of our communities. And a lot of those communities are now working towards implementation of some of these projects. And many of these projects are complete streets or lane repurposing. Some that we're looking to prioritize in this upcoming list of priority projects, requesting for funding. It's construction funding for the lane repurposing in Boca Raton. That's from Community Real to Meisner Boulevard. There's construction funding for complete streets project in West Palm Beach, and that's from 25th to 45th Street. That was originally trying to be a lane repurposing as well, but it went through the process of a traffic study, and it came back that was not supported by Fdot. And so West Palm Beach is looking to do a complete streets project out there instead. Last one is one that's moving through the process now with the study. And then once that's done, it'll be analyzed by Fdot and then we have to have approval by Lake Worth Beach, but it's design funding for a lane repurposing there. And that's from Dixie Highway, Federal Junction, north to Gregory Road. The next priorities we have for state road modifications to get funded include Okeechobee Boulevard Enhanced Transit Multimodal Corridor Facilities. So this is also kind of a series of products on it. One that's already in the pipeline to be funded and programmed is the Transit Signal Priority, which you'll hear more about today from PalmTran. But other ones that we have upcoming here is to fund enhanced transit shelters along the corridor. It's one of our highest transit routes in the county, looking to have premium shelters out there. And we're also finishing up our Okeechobee Boulevard corridor study. So that's sort of going to fall in line with that and see where those transit shelters can go in the future and make sure that's aligned with whatever comes out of that plan, if we can. But we're looking to have the construction funding for enhanced transit shelters sometime in the future. Next is the Lake Worth Road Enhanced Transit Multimodal Corridor Facilities, same concept as Okeechobee Boulevard, looking to fund transit signal prioritization, just like we were doing with US 1 and Okeechobee. And then you'll also see a series of traffic signal improvements at a lot of with technology and also hardening of those systems throughout the county for both Palm Beach County and Boca Raton, our two traffic signal maintaining agencies. One of the requests in there is for one in Boca Raton, Federal Highway at Spanish River Boulevard. It's a smaller scale one, requesting funding for that one. And then lastly, Fdot wanted us to make sure that we're keeping them notified of this and put it in there this year, but it's an Okeechobee Boulevard feasibility study that would be done by Fdot after we complete the corridor study for Okeechobee Boulevard. So you all will see the final results and have your final determination on that and an action for that in our October meeting. So that'll be coming to you. It'll go through the committees again and then to you all in October. And so after that planning study, the next steps is for Fdot to do an additional feasibility study for Okeechobee Boulevard. That's all I have for you for state road modifications. I'll turn it back over to Jason.
Can I just ask you a quick question on the Okeechobee feasibility study? Is there any way for that to move further east and perhaps entertain the idea of the tunnel being incorporated into that feasibility study?
Sure. So just to kind of back up, this is our wish list, but of kind of bullet, we've already done we're working on a planning study. And the next step is for FDOT to further evaluate whatever we come out of it. But as a separate effort, since this planning study has been being worked on since last year, we are doing a workshop downtown and getting all the partners together to identify that next step. And from that, we'll bring it to the board and see what the next direction for that is, whether it's because this list of priority projects is basically, we just adopted our 5-year work program. Now this is our wish list of what we're thinking about for the next outer year. But So that would potentially be in 6 years, this feasibility study, hopefully sooner. The tunnel concept, we're gonna gather all the partners downtown and figure out, do we go after a different, a sooner grant from the federal government, such as a raise grant or one of those efforts as a collaborative effort for that specific issue downtown?
Very good. Thank you. Yes, we have Mayor Pinto. You are recognized.
Yeah, so on that subject about the tunnel, I do think that there should be, probably as a separate independent effort, a further review of that to really understand conceptually what it would look like, what it would do in terms of transforming that sector of Okeechobee Boulevard heading all the way east to Flagler, I guess. It's an idea that I think some more time should be put in to really understanding that concept and getting a better feel for the logistics and how do you do a project like that in a very active area.
Well, I agree with you 100%, Mayor, and I think what our executive director is saying is that we have a long way to go, whether it's even going to be embraced by the stakeholders here in West Palm Beach. And so, but I think that, you know, we're talking long term, and I think that if there's an opportunity to identify federal dollars that would give us the money for the feasibility study, we should be looking for those as quickly as we can.
I agree. Thank you.
Very good. Any more conversation yet? I'm seeing no more cards up either virtually or in the room. So let's go on.
Okay. So I'm now going to transition to the 2 annually competitive grant programs, and these grant programs are offered to all of our municipalities. So these are a collection of all of your projects that you've applied for and we've selected to program and include in our list of priority projects. So just a quick overview, local initiatives is a 5-year timeline, and it offers about 22 million in federal funds. You can apply for up to 5 million per project. We expect you to have design in year 3, and then this grant provides construction funding in year 5. And the limitations of this program, the funding is applied to specific roadways that are eligible, and that's the federal aid eligible roadway network, which is throughout Palm Beach County. And the types of projects you'll see here in the next couple slides include complete streets projects, transit capital projects like new rolling stock or electric buses, non-motorized facilities like bike and pedestrian sidewalks and bike lanes, as well as freight efficiency projects. And our request to FDOT is to update our funding that supports the TPA planning and administration consistent with our recently adopted UPWP for 23 through 24. That's our operating budget that you've seen in the previous month from our CFO, Matthew. In addition to that, we're requesting funding for the 7 projects that were successfully selected and vetted through FDOT as part of the 2022 local initiatives grant cycle. And I will review those 7 projects in the next 2 slides. The first being a 10-foot shared use pathway with some missing crosswalks along Southwest 18th Street for Boca Raton, followed by new rolling stock for Tri-Rail, and that's followed by a 5-foot designated bike lane and an 8-foot sidewalk in Palm Beach Gardens along Gardens Parkway. Palm Trend has a couple of projects here. One is for the purchase of 4 electric buses as part of their electric bus transition initiative of converting their fleet into electric buses. Next is a 10-foot shared use pathway along Barwick Road, as well as new sidewalks in Delray Beach. The second Palm Trend project you see is bus stop improvements. They're looking to improve all of their highly used, high priority bus stops throughout Palm Beach County. So they're moving ahead with updating their bus stop location, bus shelters throughout Palm Beach County through this grant. And finally is Indian Trail Improvement District. They're looking to fund Seminole speed tables along a few of their roadways, which are Temple Boulevard, Hall Boulevard, and 140th Avenue. The last program is the transportation alternatives. This is the smaller of the 3 programs. It has a shorter timeline and a less funding available of 3.3 million in federal funds. There is a limit of 1 million per project, and this grant, it is expected to have your design completed in year 1, and this grant provides construction funding in year 3. The types of projects that are eligible, there's more flexibility with this program where you can apply for funds on the federal aid eligible roadway network, but also local roadways. So this is the primary grant that you would look for to improve your local roads in your municipality. And it primarily funds complete streets projects, bicycle and pedestrian projects, as well as historic preservation and safe routes to school. Now, our request for transportation alternatives is similar to local initiatives in that we're requesting FDOT to prioritize funding for the 4 projects that we received in the Transportation Alternatives Grant Program for fiscal year 22, which was the previous cycle. And on this slide, these are the 4 projects that were successfully vetted through FDOT, and we would like to see funding on. And the first one here is a 10-foot shared use pathway and expanding an existing sidewalk in Indian Trail Improvement District along a number of roadways in Indian Trail Improvement District, and they are Hamlin Boulevard, Grapeview Boulevard, and Citrus Grove Boulevard. That's followed by buffered bike lanes and an 8-foot pathway along the south side of Fairchild Avenue along Palm Beach Gardens. And that's kind of coupled with the local initiatives, and they're kind of they're providing these projects closer to their mall for more accessibility and more multimodal amenities around that area. The next is Royal Palm Beach. They are looking to fund pedestrian and bicycle network wayfinding throughout Royal Palm Beach to locate the facilities that they have to offer to their residents, their parks and bike network. And the final project here is on 49th Street in West Palm Beach. They're looking to fund ADA ramps, sidewalks, and traffic calming elements along 49th Street that include sharrows for bicycle travel as well. And so this is a couple of links to find more information. This entire document is located on our website at palmbeachtpa.org/priorities. That'll give you the entire list of all the projects that have been programmed in previous years as well as this year in that particular document. So you can see all of the projects within these 3 programs. And if you want to find out more information about these individual programs, you can go to our website, and it's palmbeachtpa.org/funding to get more information on each one of them. And stay tuned. In October, we'll be working with FDOT to release and work towards administering the next grant cycle for the following year for 2023. Before I move to requesting a motion for a vote, I just want to review our advisory committees had also seen this presentation and had voted on the list of priority projects, and our technical advisory committee had recommended adoption 18-5 with a few dissenting votes, but also a friendly amendment to add board direction to the Okeechobee, one of the projects, which is a Okeechobee feasibility study. The dissenting votes were from West Palm Beach that were due to the inclusion of State Route 7 extension. And there was also dissenting votes for concerns from Palm Beach County and Jupiter regarding the Okeechobee Boulevard and State Route 7 multimodal corridor study. Our Citizen Advisory Committee adopted it unanimously, and our Vision Zero Action Advisory Committee had also recommended adoption 10-2 with similar concerns where Palm Beach County had dissented due to concerns with the Okeechobee Boulevard and State Route 7 multimodal corridor study. And with that, I'm seeking a motion to adopt the list of priority projects for fiscal year 24 through 28.
Thank you, Mr. Price. And I'm going to first see if we have any comments. Staff, do you have anything? Okay, very good. Vice Chair.
I just want to say I'm really excited and thank you, Andrew and Jason, for going through this for us. It is wonderful to see mobility happening in municipalities because of these grants, and especially mostly the 4 electric buses and the bus stops. I'm delighted to see that coming through now. We are all pushing for that and seeing complete streets, bike ped, multimodal, sustainability, all of that stuff on these grants and the opportunity for municipalities, no matter how big or small, to connect through mobility through these grants. So I look forward to a competitive grant cycle again in the fall, and I'm really proud of what we're putting out this year. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other comments? All right, I'll entertain a motion to approve the FY 24-28 list of priorities. I have a motion by Councilman Napoleon. Do I have a second? I have a second by Commissioner Kerner. All in favor? All opposed? Shall I show Paduzzi and Fox as no's? Okay. Gee, how'd I know that? All right, so. And did you get the votes from our friends virtually?
Nobody raised their hand.
All right, if you are listening and you are a negative vote, Commissioner McKinley, Vice Mayor Cruz, Mayor Flores, or Mayor Pinto, please let us know.
Am I supposed to vote no for Commissioner Weiss?
Well, you know, I found it interesting that you seconded. I have a feeling that my vice mayor may have some problems with that. All right, but it's only approval of a list of priorities. Okay, very good. I'll show that as being approved with 2 dissent. Okay, we're going to move on. We have one more action item, and then those of you who have other places to be will be dismissed. We are looking for a presentation on the FY 23 strategic plan. Andrew?
Hello again, everyone. I'm going to go into the draft fiscal year 2023 strategic plan update. And so you'll see in here a bunch of track changes. I'm just going to talk through the main changes of the document from last year. And then our strategic plan is really, it builds upon our Unified Planning Work Program, which you all adopted 2 months ago for fiscal years 23 and 24. So this really builds on that, and it focuses our attention on key metrics to enhance our vision. Provided for you all is that fiscal year 2022 annual report, and it provides highlights in that created by our PR staff. I did a good job on that one. It was provided here in print, and then it's also going to be available online. But in that, you'll also see the status of the last strategic plan report for 2022. So I'll be going through the draft actions. We're trying to keep these to at least at max 5 per goal. That's the same kind of goal set that we have in our Unified Planning Work Program. And then it's about 3 to 5 actions overall to try to keep it pretty straightforward. This was reviewed by the executive committee on June 6th, and they provided their feedback for inclusion, and then it was presented to our committees this past month. The first one is engage the public, and there's a lot of changes on this screen, but really what we're doing here is making some of these changes to make it more well-rounded about how we measure public engagement. And I'll go through all the outcomes individually. The first one involves direct public feedback from everyone through comments, right? So our goal is 500 comments. That was the same goal we had last year, but it was all towards our interactive comment map. We have other avenues of receiving public comment. And so we changed this one to show collecting public comments just from the online map as well, but also surveys and other platforms that we have to get information from them. The next one is going towards followers and impressions, which are how many times it's seen on our social media, our name. And so this is to increase social media engagement, and we're looking to increase our followers on social media and then also increase our impressions monthly. The next one deals with direct participants in our events and campaigns. The next one is related to TPA related media stories, and so bumping that up from 40 last year to 75 this year. And then the last one deals with presentations that our staff gives on our initiatives to partner agencies and to groups. So bumping that from 15 to 20. The next goal is plan the system. And many of the ones that we have taken out for this one were one-off ones to update or just one-off requests for studies. So we did an impact analysis of COVID-19 on travel patterns. That report is published and presented to you all and to our committees, and it's available online. We're updating our complete streets design guidelines. We're nearing the completion of that as well to update it based on the new Fdot standards. We implemented our Vision Zero action plan update, and now we're tracking the status of that. annually. So that's going to be the outcome for next year, is to provide that status update. And then one that we struck to as well was to our commencement of multimodal corridor studies on our transit plan corridors. We originally set out to try to do 2 studies per year. Really, that's we went with the Okeechobee Boulevard one. That was a pretty detailed study, required a lot of resources and staff time and consultant time. What we're trying to do instead is refine the countywide mobility vision in our funding plan, which is our action A there, and really incorporate that a little bit more into that. So we're still going to do another study here, but it's going to be inclusive of all the other corridors and have more of a higher level land use analysis in that, instead of going more into detail like we have in the US 1 and Okeechobee Boulevard studies. Next is prioritize funding, goal 3. Our first one was to create a state road modification scoring system for for applicants to apply to us. For that, it includes safety in that scoring system. That was accomplished. And so next, what we're trying to do is make sure we're actually getting products in to get funded through our programs, and then also additional projects, if possible, for other types of funding out there, discretionary or other safety funds. So for this one, it's to identify and prioritize safety projects on our high crash corridors that were identified in our Vision Zero action plan, and also ones that are on our Tier 1 pedestrian bicycle network that was identified in our long range transportation plan. And our goal is to have 5 of those safety projects prioritized through our programs that you just heard about in our list of private projects. Next is support and track applications for discretionary grants. So trying to have a good handle on who all in the community is submitting for these discretionary grants, and staying abreast of those and providing our support when we can. The next one is to establish an application process for safety products. We struck through this one. It's sort of related to the first one. And then also there's money out there from the federal government Highway Safety Improvement Program. That money goes to the state, and originally it was directly prioritized by the state. It still is, but they're now giving that to the districts to also work with their locals to submit safety products for that funding. So we're having a meeting soon, a workshop with the other MPOs in our district and Fdot to roll out that process. So Fdot's going to give us an update on that and how they're going to have us apply for safety projects. The last one deals with how we push our legislative and policy positions. We've had a discussion a few months ago about this, but originally we were advocating as staff and with our consultants to try to push some of these legislative policy positions to amend laws and policies. That takes a lot of staff resources to do that, and also consultant resources. We spend it that way. What we're instead doing is working through our MPOAC, which is all the MPOs within the state. They put out legislative priorities and policy positions. So we're to make sure we're participating in that process, and that the conclusion of that is the adopted MPOAC legislative policy positions and priorities. They also have the resources to meet with people in Tallahassee and then also the federal level to push these initiatives. Next is implement projects. Just one change here. We had last time support accelerated product delivery by partner agencies. So, a lot of our funding programs are 5 years out, right? So it comes into the new 5th year. So it can be a while to get things funded. Unfortunately, it's very difficult to try to accelerate this without sort of like some other type of funding mechanism provided working with the state. So this has really been tough for us to try to accelerate that. Instead of doing that, what we've also heard from municipalities is some of them need help with product identification and grant application submittals. And so we're trying to shift our gear towards that to just get more submittals as well, to make it a more competitive process. And so we're looking to do 4 product submittals on that. Number 5 is collaborate with partners. Many uses small updates, but the first one is to do 4 local studies and plans with our local governments who are looking to have more mobility and transportation studies and plans done. C is to create a how to ride mobility options video. Our staff in-house did a mobility options video last month that they showed you all. This is sort of going to be the next step in that, which is going to be 5 shorter videos on how to ride different types of modes within Palm Beach County. And then one that was added for this one was E, conduct mobile tours with partner agencies to experience local transportation facilities and services. And so we're looking to host 4 of those tours throughout the year in various parts of the county. We've done this in the past, but I don't believe it's ever been in our strategic plan. We've had one at the port before, at the airport. So trying to reach out to them to provide tours, and then also maybe some other communities throughout the county. And the last goal is to administer the agency. We are looking, we modified last year our TPA committees to support our TPA initiatives. So we had a change to our Vision Zero Advisor Committee. We had a few other updates for our CAC. So this year, instead of that one, we're looking to update our board and committee onboarding resources. So we have a handbook out there right now, looking to update that and to also provide more resources, both in terms of a video and then a workshop held in person annually to provide more resources for our committees and our board to get more knowledge about the MPO planning process. And the other ones are carryovers from last year, but to continue to pursue new designations for our workplace, and then to update our quarterly finance summaries and our annual comprehensive financial report for fiscal year 2022. And that's all I have for you. Thank you.
Great. All right. Obviously, in light of the discussion we had earlier today, I'm wondering if on administer the agency, we shouldn't be inserting something in here as far as team building. And I'm not quite sure how we would frame that, but I think we've acknowledged that we need to do something to address that. Any input into that?
I think that falls under Action 6A because it's a broad budget for trainings, not only professional training, but we've internally have a goal. We've established a goal of at least a quarterly team building. So we recently did a team building event. So it would fall under that.
All right. Any other comments? Do we have any public comments?
No, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Okay. Seeing no further comments, you also would be including in this A item, the issue with respect to HR, as far as HR administration.
These in this specific strategic plan, these are 3 to 5 things that we want to do like above and beyond our UPWP, but in our UPWP, our Unified Planning Work Program, we've already accounted for the different services that we have. So that is out on the streets now, that RFP.
Very good. Okay, good. All right. I'm not seeing anybody with any
So
input.
moved.
Okay, I have a motion by Commissioner Kerner. I have a second by Councilman Napoleon. All in favor, all opposed. I'm going to show that as unanimously approved. Okay, we're done with action items. We're now moving on to information items, traffic signal priority updates. And we're going to invite Palmtran up to look who's here. Mr. Forbes, it's always great to see your smiling face.
Mr. Forbes, may I request that you turn on the microphone?
Can you hear me now?
Thank you.
All right. Mr. Chair, the same as well. Vice Mayor, Vice Chair, and members of the Transportation Planning Agency. Thank you for allowing us to give you a brief update on our transit signal priority project, which is a funding project in your plan. So we want to thank you for that funding. But before I begin, I would be remiss if I do not congratulate my peer, Valerie Nielsen. Congratulations, Valerie. Welcome to the club. It's been a joy working with you when you were in a leadership position, when you were interim, and now the official capacity of executive director. I would describe you or characterize your leadership probably in 2 ways. 1, you're very passionate, and 2, you have very long text messages. But both are great. Before we jump into the presentation, Mr. Chair, I'm going to introduce Levi Mccullum. He's our Executive Director of Transit Planning for Palmtran. He's fairly new to Palmtran. Levi Mccullum is a professional that we stole from the west part of the state in Lee County at Lee Tran. He is an expert in geography, Spanish, and he's in love with mobility and maps, right? So he'll give the essentially the full presentation. But what we're doing here, Mr. Chair and members, we are going to begin, working with Ms. Nielsen, giving you a snapshot of some of the projects in your program, informational presentations, letting you know, how those projects are progressing through your program, because you are, providing that funding to us. But before we jump into the presentation, I do want to give a brief ridership update on Palm Tran. This ridership update is a 50,000 foot type view of our ridership. It includes all of our modes: mobility on demand, fixed route, paratransit. And as you can see, ridership is trending positively year over year. The first category, when you see May 2022 versus May 2021, that's month to month, year to year, a slight increase, 4%, that's positive. Just below that, you'll see the month to the previous month, May 2022 to April 22, slight increase in ridership, but positive nonetheless. And of course, the fiscal year, we're very pleased with 11.5% when we compare fiscal year to fiscal year. Now, what you do see is a sharp red arrow down on the COVID-19 comparison, where you could see that we are still roughly 30% down in ridership. I don't like to look at it like that. I actually like to look at it as we've retained 70% of our ridership. How about that?
The cup
And
is
so
3/4 full.
Right, 3/4 full. And so, I mean, during the height of COVID, we took a 60% dip in ridership. So we are gradually getting our ridership back and finding new riders. And just, this is a line graph that illustrates really the same thing. Clearly, I don't have to describe what that red line is, that precipitous dip in March, April 2020. That was the height of COVID. And you see a small spike in June, July. It's like, okay, what's that about? That's when we went fare free, with our system. And when we reintroduced the fares, the ridership went slightly down. You'll see some slight ebbs and flows in our ridership, but it's pretty linear. But again, the promising thing here is that we have a slow creep in our ridership coming back. And, we're looking forward to, our ridership back. And we're not being hopeful about it or wishing our ridership come back or it'll come back through osmosis. We're working hard. The team is working hard to regain the trust of our riders and find new riders, mostly through marketing. You probably have seen some of our pieces. And so we are spending some money to aggressively, remind people how important public transit in this community is to meeting our mobility needs. So with that, Mr. Chair, I'd like to kick off the Transit Signal Priority Project. And Mr. McCullum, please.
Clinton, before we let you run away, how are we doing as far as the public embracing the new Paradise card?
Oh, exceptionally well. You'll just be amazed how adroit, our riders are with this new technology. And almost everyone who rides our system, no matter the income bracket, they have a smartphone. And so we thought that most would adopt the smart card, which is a credit card type smart card that's used on a lot of systems. It's called the Paradise Pass. But actually they're adopting the mobility app, the mobile app. And so it's almost 3 times more people using the mobile app than the actual smart card. And so, yes, the adoption rate is great and the system is working.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Forbes. Good morning. My name is Levi Mccullum. I'm the Director of Planning at Palm Tran. Accompanying me today is our consultant from WSP, who has been assisting us with the transit signal prioritization effort. I'd like to introduce to you Mr. Sharam Ramaratnam, who is the Director of Transit and Rail Engineering at WSP. So as Mr. Forbes explained, we are seeing a slight increase in our ridership over the last several months. It is a slow growth, but we realize that we have to continue to build our ridership. This is a fight to get that ridership back that we lost during COVID and attract new ridership as Palm Beach County continues to urbanize. As Mr. Forbes mentioned, that's not a process of osmosis. It's a very active process. And we have a multi-pronged approach to be able to improve our on-time performance and improve our service frequency. The transit signal prioritization technology that we are presenting today will help us bolster that effort and achieve that goal. So the Federal Transit Administration defines transit signal priority as special treatment given to transit vehicles at signalized intersections. In short, what that means for us is that we are speeding up our buses. Our average speed goes up, thereby reducing our travel times, reducing the delays that we have at intersections for our buses. It improves our schedule adherence, or otherwise known as on-time performance. And in some cases, we see with our sister agencies across the US that fewer buses are actually needed to operate the same service. So how could we expect this to improve our community? Well, it's possible that based on the research and the literature that we've seen from other communities, that the schedule adherence, or again, on-time performance, could go up by 10 to 15%. So to give you a concrete example of what that looks like, US 1 and the Route 1 has on-time performance at roughly 80% right now. So we could see anywhere between 90 to 95% on-time performance with the implementation of TSP. Now, we believe that's a win, not only for Palm Tran, but for our customers and for our community. Sometimes priority and preemption are used interchangeably, but in the literature, they're very different. So what we try to communicate with this chart is what exactly those nuances are between the two. And simply put, for transit priority, mainly it will extend a green light, whereas preemption is going to possibly change the phase from like a red phase to a green phase to give priority for emergency vehicles. Not only that, transit priority is also more corridor based because we're traveling with mostly 35, 40-foot buses. We do have some smaller vehicles, but a lot of bigger vehicles that travel on major arterial roadways. Whereas within a fire rescue or an emergency vehicle, you really need to have that type of preemption at every intersection to make it the most usable and useful for the community. So in our efforts with the transit signal priority, we talked to a lot of vendors and we asked, if they had the priority and preemption technology that would be able to apply to both applications. We found out that there are vendors out there that do exactly that, and they have a wide range of technologies to be able to get us there. The Transportation Planning Agency's Long-Range Transportation Plan and the Transportation Improvement Program have both identified the US 1 and Okeechobee Boulevard corridors as high priority corridors for the implementation of transit signal prioritization. In fact, the Transportation Planning Agency has identified $2 million for construction of TSP in fiscal year 23 for US 1 and $1 million for Okeechobee Boulevard in fiscal year 24. Palm Tran followed up this effort, knowing that we have this funding, by identifying some goals. Palm Tran wanted to understand the planning, the implementation, operation, and evaluation of transit signal priority. We understand that a successful project implementation here is going to require communication, collaboration, and coordination from multiple agencies and organizations. Early on, the project team identified and engaged project stakeholders in the process by conducting field visits at traffic control centers, as well as on Palm Tran premises. Palm Tran has thus far coordinated with the Palm Beach Transportation Planning Agency, the Florida Department of Transportation, Palm Beach County Fire Rescue, Palm Beach County Traffic Division, Palm Beach County Information System Services, and the City of Boca Raton Traffic Engineering. So all of these stakeholders were able to provide their input and feedback, and that went into the concept of operations, which was one of our goals. The concept of operations is a tool that allows us to envision what this service, what this technology will look like once applied to the Palm Beach County setting. The next goal that we had was to update an outdated minimum technical requirements document that was created about 5 years ago. It didn't take into consideration the latest advances and evolution of the technology. So we successfully were able to update that minimum technical requirements document and finally draft a request for proposal that is going to go on the street fairly soon and allow us to select the vendor that's going to meet the needs for all stakeholders that I mentioned thus far. So after we looked at the study goals, we wanted to look at what our landscape was like. So we surveyed the technology for all the stakeholders involved. PalmTran has approximately 159 buses with onboard units that allow for bus-to-bus communication. So that technology allows for a ping for the location-based update approximately every 30 seconds. Moving on to Palm Beach County Traffic, they did have an emergency vehicle preemption system. However, it has since been discontinued. Though Palm Beach County Traffic has proactively optimized their signal timing on a monthly basis, and they have an adaptive system which which incorporates continuous detection along the corridors, not just at specific intersections. So it's a pretty advanced system. Moving on to fire rescue, they have onboard units very similar to PalmTran, however, different in the way that they communicate, because during emergency calls, of course, they are much more frequent than 30 seconds. You need to know that information regularly. So they have 1-second calls during those emergency events. While the system is pretty advanced, it does not have dynamic routing or rerouting capability. So once you're set in the path, once you leave the facility, then that is the path that the vehicle will take you on, unless, of course, the operator of that vehicle decides to take another route or to dynamically route it themselves. And lastly, we spoke with Boca Raton Traffic Engineering and did a survey there. They do not have existing transit signal priority. However, they offer an emergency vehicle preemption system. They, very similar to Palm Beach County Traffic, are proactive in their approach to signal timing, and they optimize their signals on a weekly basis. Likewise, they have an adaptive signal priority system that's fairly advanced. There are two types of priority applications. There's passive priority and active priority. A passive priority is it allows for the optimization of the signal timing on a specific corridor. So if you can imagine when you're either driving in your car or riding in one of the PalmTran buses and you see a bunch of green lights right in a row, that is the passive priority that's taking place there. The active priority, however, it understands where the vehicle is. So the vehicle is communicating to the signal. So in this case, you're going to want to be behind a bus. I know typically that's not the case, but with this active priority system, you'll want to be behind the bus because you're going to get a green light and you're probably going to get to your destination. And then maybe it'll convince you to get on board one of our vehicles, right? So we can improve that ridership. So the use of TSP can be scheduled for all day events or for just peak hours only. All of these parameters are adjustable within the system. And we're looking for something that's advanced, that's going to help us to build that ridership, as I mentioned. Also, active priority has multiple parameters, including schedule, ridership, and headway-based settings. So considering the input from our stakeholders and our current service frequency, our proposed approach is to implement a schedule-based system that's going to give priority to the buses that are running 3 minutes or greater behind schedule. So this slide is a little more on the technical side, but what it's trying to communicate here is that it's identifying what our needs are for our system and for our community. The takeaway message is that the minimum technical requirements document that PalmTran, our stakeholders, and WSP prepared identifies specific hardware and software upgrades, as well as system integration for the implementation to be successful. So as PalmTran continues to transition this project from a concept or a concept of operations to actual operations and seeing it out in the real world, ongoing coordination is going to be required, especially with our funding partners, the Transportation Planning Agency and the Florida Department of Transportation District 4. PalmTran and our stakeholders are scheduling the final meeting, the final stakeholder meeting that is, to finalize the scope of work for the request for proposal. Additionally, and it's worth mentioning that the cost of goods and services are continuing to increase with the ongoing supply chain issues. Recognizing that, it is very likely that the amounts currently in the Transportation Improvement Program could fall short of the total project budget. And lastly, I'll leave with what the scope of our next few months towards the end of the year and early next year look like. Our request for proposal has two phases to it. To ensure that this thing is successful, we want to see it live and in action before we roll out a system-wide implementation. So we have a pilot phase or a demo phase where it will be out in the field. Our buses will be able to use it. We'll be able to test the results and make any modifications as necessary. And then, of course, do the county-wide or the corridor-wide rollout for US 1 and then Okeechobee Boulevard. So that is my presentation on transit signal prioritization. Thank you for listening, and I'll take any questions if you have any.
Thank you. This is not being done in a vacuum. Obviously, with autonomous vehicles being planned out in the future, there's a lot of communication going on between the infrastructure and the vehicles and the vehicle to vehicle. How does all of this relate to that ongoing improvement of the technology so that someday in the future, we can read our New York Times on the way to work?
Yes, it's a great point. Regarding autonomous vehicles, this technology is very extendable. So it has, software on board that can be upgraded as the technology, including autonomous vehicle technology, continues to evolve. And I don't know if Sharam, you want to add to that.
This is part of making the signal smart. There will be hardware and software upgrades in the signal cabinets as well. And depending on the smart vehicle technology or autonomous vehicle, they will have the capabilities to communicate with the signals. But it'll require the needed device on the car, let's say if it's an autonomous car, then they'll need to have the capabilities to talk to the signals.
Levi, you said there was 159 onboard units. How does that compare with the fleet? How many buses are in the fleet?
We currently have 159 vehicles.
Okay, so they're in all the buses at this
Yes,
point.
that is correct.
Okay.
Yes, so that's how our customers are able to go to their mobile device and see where the bus is in real time.
My final question before I open it up to my colleagues here is, you mentioned that as you are improving the headways because of the signal prioritization, that it would reduce the need for buses. I'm hoping that that is not the direction we're going in, that we would be improving the headways so that we get down to maybe 5 or 10 minutes between buses and more choice riders would embrace the idea of going on public transportation.
That's absolutely it. We're trying to get the headway down as low as possible. The frequency of the service is the strongest correlation for high ridership.
Excellent, excellent. All right, do we have any public comment on this?
No, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Anybody from my colleagues who would like to make a comment? I think you have satisfied everybody's curiosity on this.
All right, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you. All right, well, I guess we're continuing on with Palm Tran, and it's going to present the report on the highlights of its ridership activities, which I thought we just had.
Mr. Chair, those reports are submitted for your information. Should you have questions, we're available to answer your questions.
All right, very
Thank you.
good. I think everybody is satisfied with that presentation. Okay, then we're going to move on to our friends at SFRTA. Anybody here from SFRTA? Going once, going twice? No. How about FDOT or Palm Beach County Engineering? No. There we go. Mr. Ricks, how are you today?
Thank you, Chair, Vice Chair, and the members of TPA, and congratulations to Valerie on your permanent appointment. Just real quick, I just want to chime in on the prioritization system that TPA, Palm Tran is talking about. We're working closely with them, and it's really related to looking at all the technology. So we worked with Palm Tran when they initially got the grant application. But at the same time, later on, we also working with the fire department and their preemption system. And their system is old technology and it wasn't meeting their needs. And they were looking to actually procure a whole new set of infrastructure. And then we looked at both requirements, say, wait, one platform can serve both. And so this platform that Palm Tran is giving with the grant will have the flexibility to add preemption to the fire service once they do the first deployment. And so, because we, as the county engineering, our traffic division will be maintaining both systems. And so we wanted to get the best bang for the buck and minimize the level of backroom infrastructure in terms of people support. So, but it's been great working with Trans and TPA on this whole journey.
Thank you, David. I had a question for you. When we were discussing the item before the motion to adopt the resolution approving the fiscal year 24-28 budget, there was a comment made out of VZAC that the county representative has concerns with the Okeechobee Boulevard and State Road 7 multimodal corridor study. Do you know exactly what those concerns are?
Well, I think the key thing, and then I think we're moving forward to get more information. And so if we're doing another detailed level of planning study, that will look at all the options in terms of what is really technically feasible and the cost and the impact. And so that's the concern. But I think, with looking forward with having a DOT doing a detail, we call behind the scenes and waiting to the weeds technical effort, I think should address a lot of the concerns.
Okay, very good. I appreciate that. All right. You're dismissed.
Yes, sir.
Okay, I think we've made it through all of our partner agency reports. Time for administrative reports. Let's see. Do we have a public? All right, so we have some reports here that are routine, that are in your backup. Does anybody have any questions on what you received? All right, we're losing our audience slowly but surely here. So I'm going to say that I think we have made it to the end of our agenda for the day. I want to thank everybody for your attention. And again, I think this went very well. Valerie, again, congratulations on your employment, as you can scratch out that word interim on your placard, and you are now our executive director. And this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.